We are talking about simplifying radicals, and we want to simplify radicals in different forms. Some properties of square roots. The product property says that if you have a product joined under the radical, it would be the same thing as splitting those products up under two different radicals. However, we still see that this was a square root and these are both square roots, and those are the same. And the quotient property says that if you have a quotient or a fraction underneath a radical, you can split the radical to go in the numerator and the denominator separately. And we can take a look at some examples. So here we have 18, and we can think of some numbers that could multiply together to get to 18, and we can think of a couple. So we could think of 9 times 2. And the good thing is we know the square root of 9 is 3. So then we can write this down as 3 times the square root of 2. And that's one possible solution. If we weren't able to see that 9 times 2 was 18, maybe you thought 6 times 3. And so then you're like, okay, it's still nothing, but I can see that I can divide 6. So then we can say the square root of 3 times the square root of 3 times the square root of 2. Now, anytime that we have two of the same thing under the radical joined by multiplication, that's when we can take it out of the radical as just one thing. So then we can say that's equal to 3 times the square root of 2. So we can get it many different ways, but the final answer for this is 3 equal to 3 times the square root of 2 equal to 3 times the square root of 2. Then we have an example of the quotient property where we can split the radical so it goes in the numerator and the denominator separately. So here we can write this down as the square root of 2 over the square root of 25. And the square root of 2 we cannot get, but the square root of 25 we know is 5. So this ends up being the square root of 2 over 5. Then we can look at 540, and we can find out all the products that we can get to multiply to 540 and keep reducing it that way. So one thing that might help is your calculator. If you're not sure, you can just say 540 divided by 10. The thing that I notice about this is 540 is divisible by 9. So I can write this down as 9 times 60. And we can keep going from there. And I know that 60 can be broken down to 10 times 6. And I can break this down further. 10 and 6 can both be broken down. And actually 9 can be broken down as well. So 9 can be broken down to 3 times 3. 10 can be broken down to 5 times 2. And 6 can be broken down to 2 times 3. So underneath the radical, we know that there's an understood 2 here. So we need to find pairs, and if we find pairs, we can bring those out of the radical. So here we have a pair of 3's. 3 times 3 is 9, and we already knew that the square root of 9 was 3. So we can take the 3's out, and we can take the 2's out because we have 2 of those. So what we end up with is the 3's come out as 1, 3. The 2's come out as 1, 2. And then we get the square root of 5 times 3. And so our answer for this one ends up being 3 times 2 is 6. And 5 times 3 is 15. And we can't reduce this radical any further. Now, how did we get 3 and how did we get 2? Well, 3 times 3 is 9. And we know that the square root of 9 is equal to 3. So that's where that 3 came from. And then we know 2 times 2 is 4. Square root of 4 is 2. So that's where that 2 came from. We have one example left. And we have 12 divided by 16. And we can split that up into 2 different radicals. So we can take the square root of 12 over the square root of 16. And in the denominator, the square root of 16, we know that that is equal to 4. If we use our calculator, square root of 16 is 4. Now, the square root of 12, we can't take the square root of 12, but we can break that down a little bit. And we can say the square root of 4 times the square root of 3. And now we do know what the square root of 4 is. The square root of 4 is 2. So we get 2 times the square root of 3 over 4. And we're not quite done yet because we have a 2 in the numerator and a 4 in the denominator. So we can divide 2 out of both of those, and we get square root of 3 over 2.